So, folks, the ICC announced yesterday, or I'm sorry, 2 days ago, rather. We covered it yesterday, but they announced it 2 days ago that they were seeking arrest warrants for Yoav Gallant and Benjamin Netanyahu. And today, Antony Blinken was disrupted in a Senate hearing. The purpose of that Senate hearing, in his mind, was to repudiate the ICC. But before he could make opening statements, some protesters got their say. So in a wide-ranging testimony before the Senate Tuesday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken denounced the chief prosecutor of the world's top war crimes court for seeking the arrest of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and said that despite offering condolences for the death of Iran's president, it didn't change that leader's history of repression. Blinken, speaking to senators about the Biden administration's foreign affairs budget proposal, was repeatedly interrupted by protesters condemning U.S. policy towards its ally Israel and its war against Hamas in Gaza. The chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations and Senate Appropriations Committees halted the hearings at least 6 times while Blinken was delivering his opening statements, as demonstrators stood up to shout their opposition to the administration's position and accused him of being a war criminal and being responsible for genocide against the Palestinian people. A couple of these instances were, thankfully, of course, caught on tape. Here's one.
I was saying the People's Republic of China.
He is a war criminal. The blood of 40,000 people is on his hands. The blood of 40,000 Palestinians is on his hands. He is a war criminal. He is a war criminal. Blinken is a war criminal. The blood of 40,000 people is on his hands.
And back to the statement, but didn't last long. Here's another one. Good for them for getting in there. Code Pink put that video out. Several silent protesters held up their hands stained with red paint or dye behind Blinken during his appearances. It's not the first time Code Pink protesters have done that. In his remarks and his responses to questions from senators, Blinken followed President Joe Biden and other administration officials in condemning the ICC's prosecutor for seeking arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant over actions taken during their 7-month war in Gaza. Blinken repeated the position that the tribunal, which Israel and the U.S. do not recognize, does not have jurisdiction, and that it was extremely wrong-headed for the prosecutor to equate, once again, we covered this yesterday, they're not equating anything, they're issuing rulings, as they should, Israeli officials with Hamas leaders that he is also seeking to indict. So once they got the bad people out of there, the bad protesters, they were able to get along with the civil business of the hearing. So here is Antony Blinken basically expressing his disdain for the ICC and international law.
Yesterday, the ICC ruling yesterday, I'd like to get your view on it. I see it as a step in the wrong direction. That's going to make it more challenging for us to get the parties together. There's always been an understanding the ICC is there to deal with countries that don't have an independent judiciary. Israel has an independent judiciary. They did not give the Israelis an opportunity. We thought there was that opportunity going to take place this week. I want to get your assessment as to how you see the current situations in light of what just happened at the ICC, as to whether we are on track to continue to negotiate in regards to the hostages and pause in the hostilities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, we see the effort to get a ceasefire and the release of hostages as the best, most effective way forward, both in getting hostages home, in creating an environment in which the people of Gaza can get more of the assistance they so desperately need, and a platform for which to build a more enduring solution that provides genuine security for Israel and meets the needs of the Palestinian people. There's been an extensive effort made in recent months to get that agreement.
Oh, there has?
We've come very, very close on a couple of occasions.
Oh,
Qatar, Egypt, others participating in the efforts to do.
you so close, but it never happens. Never happens. How many
Missed it
ceasefire
by
deals
that
have we been?
much.
Yeah, how many times have we been told, "Oh, we got a deal on the table. We're getting close," and then it blows up because obviously Hamas will only agree to a permanent ceasefire, and Israel will not agree to a permanent ceasefire because their mission
Well,
is to
it's not-
destroy all of Gaza. So there's
that-
never this idea that we've gotten close is nonsense. You've never been close. You've never been close because that's not Israel's objective. Israel's objective is to destroy Gaza. They're not going to stop until they do it.
Well, that's also a microcosm of the history of Israel.
Right.
They have spent the last 76 years pretending to be invested in a peace process and a two-state solution that they never had any intention of pursuing. That's what they're doing. Yes, we'll do a ceasefire. Meanwhile, they're doing what they want to do. This has always been their way. Their ultimate objective has always been from the river to the sea, something that is in the Likud party charter, but strangely, they don't get called out for that.
Exactly. No, saying they were this close to securing a ceasefire deal is like thinking you almost won $1,000 a week for life because you had 2 lives on the win for life scratch-off card. No, they print 2 lives on a lot of cards so that you think you were this close, but you were never that close. Yeah. They purposely put 2 there instead of 3 so that you would think, next time, almost there.
That's how if you ever play the chess hustlers in Washington Square Park, or I'm sure anywhere in the world, they're so good they let you almost win.
Right, they let you
so
almost
that you'll
win.
keep playing.
Yep, exactly. They could knock you out in 5 moves if they wanted to.
Yep.
But they don't. Right, because they have to keep you at the table.
This, we remain at it every single day. I think that there's still a possibility, but it's challenged by a number of events. And I have to say, yes, the extremely wrong-headed decision by the ICC prosecutor yesterday, the shameful equivalence implied between Hamas and the leadership of Israel, I think that only complicates the prospects for getting such an agreement.
Again, perverting the narrative here to make it look like the ICC was intent on making an equivalence between Hamas and Israel. He's saying that complicates the narrative. No, you're deliberately complicating the narrative by making this about an equivalence that's not there. The ICC issued, or sought, should I say, arrest warrants against Hamas and against Netanyahu because they found enough evidence to suggest that both were guilty of war crimes. That is all they did. That is not an equivalence. You are framing it that way in order to make it more complicated than it is, so you could say this complicates the narrative and gets in the way of negotiations. It does no such thing. It does no such thing. That is just a red herring that is meant to intentionally obfuscate the issue. All right, we're almost done.
We'll continue to forge ahead to do that. But that decision, as you said, on so many levels, is totally wrong-headed. And we'll be happy to work with Congress, with this committee, on an appropriate response.
Senator Risch.
On an appropriate response. An appropriate response. So, if we remember, those 12 Republican senators proposed sanctions against the ICC officials and their family members, barring them from ever entering this country if this arrest warrant came down. And I'm not the only person who interpreted that statement that way. Reuters reports Blinken says he'll work with U.S. Congress on potential ICC sanctions. So now we are going to have more bipartisan cooperations to attack the judges, basically. You know who attacks judges? Criminals.
Yeah. The mafia.
The mafia.
Drug cartels.
Yes. They attack judges. They threaten judges. So here we are threatening the judges on the World Court.
Yeah, and this all ties back to our interview with Anya at the top of the show. We are real. I mean, we could have gone another hour with her. We are the baddies. We are this criminal organization that has thrown out any pretense at morality that we might once have had It's purely a might makes right proposition, and there's nothing else behind our policy at this point. When you're going to go after the same ICC, whose integrity you lauded when they decided to prosecute Putin, what do you think? People don't notice that?
Right.
They don't notice your hypocrisy. Yeah, it's and as Anya pointed out, it looks like the game's almost over. We've pushed it too far. We've pushed it so far that, Frank Herbert, one of the refrains he always came back to in the Dune series was the predator strengthens the prey. We've preyed on the world for so long that we've made the rest of the world strong.
Yes.
And now they are figuring out, as you will see in nature, how to defeat the predator. And they're doing it through organizations like BRICS, by setting up new alternative payment systems, new alternative systems of investment, de-dollarization. And this is what happens with an empire in its late stages. That arrogance sets in of a population that simply cannot imagine not having its prerogatives anymore.
Yes, indeed.
Please clap.